Have you ever gone to bed thinking you were doing something good for your health, only to find out later it may have been working against you the whole time? Let me ask you something. What if the fruit you've been eating before bed every night, the same fruit you believed was healthy, was quietly putting extra stress on your kidneys while you sleep? I know that sounds hard to believe. After all, we're told fruits are good for us. And in many cases, they are. But when your kidneys are already struggling, when your creatinine keeps creeping up, when your GFR keeps slipping down little by little, some foods don't affect your body the same way anymore. I've had patients sit in my office completely frustrated. They were drinking more water, eating healthier, avoiding junk food, doing everything they thought they were supposed to do. Yet their kidney numbers kept moving in the wrong direction. And often, the reason wasn't something obvious. It was hidden inside small daily habits they never questioned. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Senior Health Channel. I'm glad you're here today. In this video, I'm going to share 4 simple fruits that may actually help support your kidneys while you sleep. These aren't exotic superfoods. They're common, affordable, and easy to find. More importantly, they may help reduce inflammation, ease the burden on your kidneys, and support your body's natural recovery process overnight. Make sure you stay with me until the end, because the last fruit on this list surprises almost everyone, and it could completely change the way you think about your bedtime routine. One thing I've learned after years of working with kidney patients is that most people misunderstand what happens when they go to sleep. They think the body shuts down and rests. But your kidneys don't get that luxury. They keep working all night long. While you're asleep, your kidneys are still filtering waste from your blood. They're balancing fluids, managing minerals, and helping remove toxins that built up throughout the day. In many ways, the night shift is one of the most important jobs they do, and here's why that matters. Nighttime is supposed to be a period of recovery. Your body slows down. Your tissues begin repairing themselves. Inflammation should come down. Your organs finally get a chance to catch up after everything they've handled during the day. But when you eat the wrong foods before bed, especially foods that are harder for weakened kidneys to process, that recovery process can be disrupted. Instead of getting a lighter workload, your kidneys may have to work even harder. And the problem is, you won't feel it happening. There's usually no pain, no alarm bell, no warning sign in the middle of the night. The extra strain happens quietly, hour after hour, while you're sleeping. That's why what you eat before bed matters much more than most people realize. Sometimes one small evening habit can either support your kidneys or make their job harder every single night. Here's something I wish more people understood about kidney health. Kidney damage doesn't announce itself. There's no pain, no sudden swelling, no flashing warning lights. Most of the time, it creeps in quietly. You could feel perfectly fine, eat foods that look healthy, even fruits and snacks you trust, and your kidneys might be silently working overtime. That's what makes it tricky. People rely on how they feel, thinking, I feel okay, so everything's fine. But kidney stress doesn't always show on the outside. The only way to really know is through lab results: creatinine, GFR, electrolytes. And here's the catch. Even small missteps repeated night after night can add up. A harmless-looking fruit before bed, a little sugar, or a potassium-heavy snack can quietly strain kidneys that are already under pressure. Most seniors never notice because there's no pain, no symptom screaming at them. It's invisible until the numbers start drifting in the wrong direction, and by then, the damage has already begun. That's why understanding hidden risk matters more than trusting how you feel. This is the part that surprises a lot of people. During the day, your body is constantly moving. You're walking, digesting food, using energy. Your metabolism is active, and your organs have an easier time handling the nutrients you consume. But at night, things change. Your body slows down. Digestion slows down. Your system shifts from activity mode into repair mode. And for people with healthy kidneys, that's usually not a problem. But when kidney function is already reduced, even slightly, nighttime can become a very different story. One thing many people don't realize is that your kidneys have to carefully manage minerals like potassium. And when those kidneys aren't working at full strength, excess potassium can start becoming harder to remove. That's why certain fruits that seem perfectly healthy can sometimes create extra stress, especially before bed. Then there's the issue of natural sugar. I'm not talking about candy or soda. I'm talking about fruit sugars. In moderation, they're fine. But when kidney function is struggling, too much sugar late at night can contribute to inflammation and make it harder for the body to fully recover while you sleep. This is why I often tell my patients not to assume every fruit is automatically a good bedtime snack. Bananas, oranges, and even large glasses of fruit juice may not always be the best choice for someone dealing with declining kidney function. The goal isn't to fear these foods. It's to understand that what works for a healthy person may not work the same way for kidneys that are already under pressure, and sometimes one small change at night can make a bigger difference than people expect. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call David. He was 64 years old, retired, and genuinely trying to take care of himself. Honestly, he was doing more than most people. He drank more water, cut back on salty foods, paid attention to food labels, and every single night before bed he ate fruit because he believed it was one of the healthiest habits he could have. At first, he felt good about it. It gave him peace of mind. He thought he was helping his kidneys, not hurting them. But when we looked at his lab work every few months, something didn't make sense. His creatinine kept creeping higher. His GFR kept moving lower. Not fast, not dramatically, just enough to make us pay attention. I still remember him sitting in my office saying, "Doctor, I don't understand. I'm trying to do everything right." And the truth is, he was trying. So we took a closer look at his evening routine. That's when we found the problem. Most nights, it was a banana, sometimes an orange, other times a large bowl of mixed fruit. Foods most people would call healthy without thinking twice. But for kidneys that were already under stress, especially at night, those choices weren't helping as much as he thought. The potassium load was higher than his body could comfortably handle. His kidneys were being asked to do extra work during the very hours they should have been recovering. The lesson David learned was simple. Just because a food is healthy for most people doesn't automatically mean it's the best choice for someone with declining kidney function. Sometimes the smallest habits, repeated every night, are the ones that matter most. What happened next is what I find most interesting about David's story. We didn't put him on a strict diet. We didn't eliminate dozens of foods. There were no expensive supplements, no complicated meal plans, and no drastic lifestyle changes. We simply replaced a few of the fruits he was eating at night with options that were easier on his kidneys. That's it. Sometimes people think healing has to be dramatic. In my experience, it usually is. More often, it's a series of small decisions made consistently over time. David stopped loading up on high-potassium fruits before bed. He made a few simple adjustments and stuck with them. At first, he didn't notice much. No sudden burst of energy, no overnight miracle. But that's how kidney health works. It's usually slow and quiet. A few months later, we repeated his lab work. His creatinine wasn't climbing anymore. His GFR had stopped falling. For the first time in a long while, things were stable, and that was a big win. Because when you're dealing with kidney problems, stability matters. It's often the first sign that your body is responding to the choices you're making. That's the lesson I want people to remember. Healing doesn't always begin with doing more. Sometimes it begins with making better choices, even small ones, and giving your body the time it needs to respond. Now, let's talk about the first fruit on the list. And honestly, it's one of the most overlooked. It's not expensive. It's not trendy. You won't see people calling it a miracle food on social media. It's simply an apple. Over the years, I've recommended apples to many patients with early kidney concerns, not because they're magical, but because they're gentle. And when your kidneys are under pressure, gentle is often exactly what they need. I remember one patient, a man in his late 60s, who struggled with bloating almost every evening. He also had kidney numbers that weren't moving in the direction we wanted. Nothing severe, but enough to make him worry. Like many people, he kept looking for complicated solutions, supplements, detox drinks, special products he found online. I told him to start with something simple. 1 apple in the evening. Nothing fancy. Just a regular apple. And most importantly, keep the peel on. A few weeks later, he told me his digestion felt better. The bloating wasn't bothering him as much. A few months later, his follow-up labs looked more stable than before. Was the apple responsible for everything? Of course not. Kidney health is never about one food, but it became part of a routine that was helping instead of hurting. One reason apples work so well is that they're naturally lower in potassium than many fruits people eat at night. They're also easy to digest and don't put the same burden on the body that some heavier snacks can. And please don't throw away the peel. That's where much of the benefit lives. The peel contains valuable fiber that helps support digestion and may reduce some of the waste products your body has to deal with. Sometimes the simplest foods end up being the ones that help the most. And for many people, an apple is a great place to start. Now, I want to spend a minute talking about something most people throw away without thinking twice: the apple peel. Honestly, that's often the most valuable part. When I tell patients to eat an apple, I almost always add the same advice: don't peel it. The reason is simple. The peel contains a type of soluble fiber called pectin. And while that may sound technical, what it does is actually pretty easy to understand. Think of pectin like a sponge. As food moves through your digestive system, pectin helps bind certain waste products and unwanted compounds before they have a chance to create extra work for your body. That means fewer toxins circulating and less burden being placed on your kidneys. What many people don't realize is that your gut and kidneys are constantly working together. When your digestive system is healthier and handling waste more efficiently, your kidneys often benefit too. I see this connection all the time in my patients. There's another advantage as well. Pectin may help calm inflammation, and inflammation is one of the biggest hidden drivers behind kidney decline. It doesn't happen overnight, but over months and years, it can quietly contribute to damage. That's why I like simple foods that work with the body instead of against. An apple with the peel on isn't a miracle cure, but it is one small, smart choice that can support your gut, reduce unnecessary stress on your kidneys, and help your body function a little more efficiently every single day. Let me tell you about another patient, Elaine. She was in her early 70s and, like many people I see, she became scared of eating fruit after her kidney diagnosis. She stopped almost everything. She thought avoiding fruit entirely was the safest choice. I could see the anxiety in her eyes every time we discussed diet. But here's the thing, she didn't need to avoid fruit. She needed to choose the right ones. That's where blueberries came in. Small, soft, easy to eat, and packed with powerful compounds called anthocyanins. These little berries quietly calm inflammation, which is a big hidden factor in kidney stress. They help reduce irritation in the tiny filters, the nephrons, that do the real work of cleaning blood. I had her start with a small portion each evening, just a few times a week. She was hesitant at first, worried that any mistake could make things worse. But over the next couple of months, we saw changes. Her inflammation markers began to drop. Her lab results stabilized. And most importantly, Elaine told me she felt lighter, less stressed, and like her body wasn't under constant pressure anymore. Blueberries aren't a magic cure, but in the context of a gentle, consistent approach, they became a safe, reliable way to support her kidneys at night. And the beauty is, they're easy to incorporate. Fresh or frozen, a small handful a few nights a week can help protect your kidneys, reduce inflammation, and support your body while you sleep without the fear that comes from guessing what's safe or not. Let me break down why blueberries are so special for kidney health. These tiny berries are packed with anthocyanins, the compounds that give them their deep blue color. And those anthocyanins aren't just for look. They work at a cellular level, protecting the kidney cells and helping reduce inflammation in the nephrons, the tiny filters that do the heavy lifting in your kidneys. Inflammation is one of the sneaky forces that can slowly damage kidneys over time. Blueberries help calm that quietly, almost like giving your kidneys a little break while you sleep. Another benefit is blood sugar stability. Spikes in sugar can stress kidneys and worsen inflammation. Anthocyanins help smooth those spikes, which is another way they protect the system. And here's a practical tip. Blueberries are naturally lower in potassium compared with some other fruits. That makes them safer for evening snacks, when your kidneys are already working a little slower. Fresh or frozen, a small handful a few nights a week can quietly support your kidneys without adding extra stress, making them one of the simplest yet most effective choices for nightly kidney care. The third fruit on this list has a story behind it that I still remember clearly. It involves a patient I'll call Anthony. He was 72 years old, and by the time he came to see me, he was carrying around a lot of fear, not the kind people talk about openly, the quiet kind. Every new lab result made him nervous. Every small change in his kidney numbers felt like bad news. Over time, he became so worried about making things worse that he started cutting more and more foods out of his diet. Eventually, he stopped eating most fruits altogether. One day he looked at me and said, "Doctor, I feel like no matter what I do, my kidneys are getting worse." I've heard that sentence many times over the years, so we reviewed everything together, and one thing surprised him. I told him I wanted him to add a small handful of red grapes back into his routine a few times each week. He looked confused. "Grapes?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "but red grapes, and keep the skin on." At first, he wasn't convinced. Like many people, he assumed all sweet fruits were bad for kidney health, but he trusted the process. He started small and stayed consistent. A few months later, something began to change. His inflammation markers looked better. His energy improved. He told me he felt less run down and more like himself again. Now, were the grapes responsible for everything? Of course not. Kidney health is never about one food, but they became part of a routine that supported his body instead of adding more stress to it. And sometimes that's exactly where progress begins. Not with a dramatic change, just one better choice repeated week after week. Now, let's talk about why red or purple grapes matter. It's not just the fruit itself, it's the skin. That thin layer is packed with resveratrol, a compound that quietly works at the cellular level. Resveratrol helps activate repair pathways inside your kidneys, reducing oxidative stress and calming the tiny filters, the nephrons, that do all the heavy lifting. It also supports better blood flow, making it easier for your kidneys to handle the work they do overnight. I've seen patients like Anthony start adding a few of these grapes back into their routine, and over time, lab markers begin to stabilize. It's subtle at first, but consistent use lets the body tap into its natural repair systems. The key is the skin peel-it, and you lose most of this benefit. It's a simple change, but it makes a real difference when kidneys are under stress. Red grapes aren't a miracle cure, but they give your body a helping hand. Now, let me tell you about Carlos. He came to me with swollen legs, constant fatigue, and that quiet kind of worry you could see in his eyes. He was trying to follow all the usual advice: watching salt, drinking water, eating carefully, but something still felt off. His kidneys were under stress, and it showed in subtle ways he barely noticed during the day. One of the first things I suggested was a small, simple change: fresh pineapple, not canned, not processed. Just fresh, golden pineapple a few times a week in the evening. The reason is the enzyme bromelain, which is highly sensitive and can be destroyed by heat or canning. Bromelain helps reduce inflammation, break down compounds that can stress the kidneys, and supports the body in clearing built-up toxins overnight. Carlos was skeptical at first. He asked, "Just pineapple?" I nodded and explained. Small changes, done consistently, can make a bigger difference than complicated plans. Within weeks, he noticed subtle shiftless swelling in his legs, a bit more energy, and a feeling of relief he hadn't experienced in months. Over time, lab markers also began to show improvement. It wasn't dramatic overnight, but steady. Fresh pineapple became a small, trusted ally in his nightly routine, quietly supporting kidney recovery while he slept. So what makes fresh pineapple different from so many other fruits? The answer is something called bromelain. Most people have never heard of it, but I've talked about it with many patients over the years because it can be surprisingly helpful when the body is dealing with inflammation and fluid retention. Think about what happens when your kidneys are under stress. Waste products can build up. Inflammation can increase. Some people start noticing swollen ankles, puffy feet, or that heavy feeling in their legs by the end of the day. Others just feel tired all the time and can't figure out why. This is where bromelain becomes interesting. It helps the body break down inflammatory compounds and may support the natural process of moving excess fluid and waste out of the system. In simple terms, it can help take some pressure off a body that's already working hard. But here's an important detail. It has to be fresh pineapple, not canned pineapple sitting in syrup, not pineapple packed with added sugar. During processing and canning, much of the bromelain is lost. What you're left with is often more sugar and far less benefit. I've seen people make that mistake many times. They hear pineapple is healthy and assume all pineapple is the same. It isn't. Fresh pineapple gives you the enzyme your body can actually use. And when it's eaten in moderation as part of a kidney-friendly routine, it may help reduce swelling, calm inflammation, and support the body's ability to clear waste more efficiently. Sometimes the biggest difference comes from understanding small details like that. If there's one lesson I've learned after years of working with people who have kidney problems, it's this: consistency matters more than perfection. I remember a patient named Harold. He was one of the most motivated people I've ever met. Every time he came into my office, he had a new plan. One week, he was focused on drinking more water. The next week, he was trying a completely different diet. Then he switched to a new supplement he read about online. A few weeks later, he'd move on to something else. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't careless. In fact, he cared so much that he kept searching for the perfect solution. The problem was that his kidneys never had a chance to respond. You see, kidneys don't work like that. They don't usually reward extreme efforts or quick fixes. They're slow. They respond to stability. They respond to habits that are repeated day after day, week after week. So eventually, we simplified everything. No complicated rules, no miracle foods, just a simple routine. An apple on most evenings, blueberries a few times a week, a small serving of red grapes here and there, fresh pineapple on specific days. Nothing dramatic, nothing difficult to follow. The biggest change wasn't the fruit itself, it was the consistency. A few months later, Harold's numbers started moving in the right direction. Slowly, not dramatically. But that's often how real healing looks. Small improvements that add up over time. And what's interesting is that scientific research supports this idea. Consistent, healthy habits tend to produce better long-term results than short bursts of perfect behavior followed by weeks of inconsistency. That's why I always tell my patients to stop chasing perfection. Your kidneys aren't asking for perfection. They're asking for support. They're asking for stability. The people who do best are usually not the ones making the biggest changes. They're the ones making good choices over and over again, even when the progress feels slow, because slow progress is still progress. And when it comes to kidney health, steady improvement is often the strongest sign that your body is finally moving in the right direction. As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one thought that I hope stays with you long after this video ends. Your creatinine number is not your future. Your GFR is not your future. They are important tools. They help us understand what's happening inside the body, but they do not tell the whole story. Because right now, at this very moment, your kidneys are still working for you. They're still filtering your blood. They're still balancing fluids. They're still doing everything they can to keep your body going, even if they're under stress. Even if they're not as strong as they once were. And that's something worth remembering. Over the years, I've seen many people become discouraged by a lab result. They start believing that nothing they do matters anymore. But I've also seen the opposite. I've seen people make small changes, stick with them, and gradually move in a better direction than they ever expected. That's why I believe so strongly in the power of daily habits, not extreme diets, not miracle supplements, not overnight transformations, just small choices repeated consistently. Maybe tonight it's choosing a better bedtime snack. Maybe it's replacing one habit that's been working against. Maybe it's simply deciding to take care of yourself a little more than you did yesterday. Those choices matter. So if you learned something from today's video, I encourage you to start tonight. Don't wait for next week. Don't wait for the perfect time. Your body is listening right now, and every healthy choice gives it another opportunity to respond. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I truly appreciate every one of you who watches, comments, and shares your journey. And if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the Senior Health channel and turn on notifications. Every week, we share simple, science-based health information designed to help you stay stronger, healthier, and more independent for years to come. I wish you good health, steady strength, and many healthy years ahead. Take care of yourself, take care of your kidneys, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore another simple habit that may be quietly helping or harming your health every single day.